Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, this February 2nd, 2022, we are continuing to have a close look at the ongoing crisis between Ukraine, Russia, and obviously the West and the United States. But news is coming in now that it appears that the United States is starting to flex certain amount of forces towards Poland and towards Romania. Specifically, it would appear that elements of the 82nd Airborne Division, quite possibly a battalion, the Ready Battalion of the 82nd Airborne, could be forward deployed to Eastern Europe, as well as some command and control elements of the 18th Airborne Corps. That could facilitate further deployment of additional forces at a later date. So, if you look at the some of the news headlines, this is coming out of Britain's news channel, GB, gbnews.uk. And if you listen to the way this headline is positioned to the audience, U.S. rushing troops to Europe with Putin ready to invade Ukraine. Now, that headline would make it sound as if the United States is deploying forces, as if those deployed forces could actually do something to prevent the Russians from entering Ukraine, and that is very, very far from the actual truth. So again, in terms of force deployments, we're really looking at lighter forces. Again, a battalion of the 82nd Airborne Division deployed to Poland is going to do very, very little in the event that the Russians make a move on Ukraine, much less make a move at some point on the Baltic states, which, as I theorize, could end NATO without even really firing too many shots. Obviously, some shots would be fired, but the capability of NATO to defend the Baltics and retake the Baltics is currently not there. So I would say that this force deployment by the United States is simply symbolic in nature and is really going to do very, very little in the long run to dissuade Vladimir Putin from entering the Ukraine, if he has in fact chosen to do that. Furthermore, it would appear that there was a communique between the White House and the Kremlin in which Joe Biden and certain defense officials had authorized that Russian officials could tour the Aegis ashore facility located in Romania. And again, this is a big thorn for Vladimir Putin, having this facility here. Number one, it's obviously to Romania. It sits on the borders of Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, or what was the former Soviet Union. And this is the Aegis ashore system. So, what this is basically, if I do believe most individuals who watch the channel are familiar with the Aegis system. This is really an air defense design system that you would normally see on a Ticonderoga, a battle cruiser warship, or a Arleigh Burke class destroyer. And so again, the same basic system, same basic advanced radar concept. That is really, if you look at the direction of the arrays, it's really designed to look east and southeast as well, and that was one of the reasons it was put in Romania, to be able to look at what was happening, especially in Iran. If there was ever a ballistic missile attack on Europe from Iran, these arrays could pick that strike up. But at the same time, it does also have the ability to survey what is going on in Western Russia as well, or the approaches from Russia to Western Europe. And more specifically, what Putin is worried about is that these complexes here, which would normally fire surface-to-air missile systems to interdict ballistic missiles or cruise missiles or whatever it could be that's coming in from the east or south or the southeast. Am I mistaken? I said southwest, but southeast and east. What Putin is worried about, that these systems could be used to fire Tomahawk cruise missiles. And I get and I understand that is a theory of Putin's. Now, is there other systems that could be utilized by the American military if it had a desire to attack, let's say, Moscow or some other target in Russia? I would say absolutely. Now, this adds an additional layer, possibly, if these systems were to be replaced with its surface-to-air missile systems, and these are basically vertical launch tubes. And what you can do is you could replace these vertical launch tubes with surface-to-air missiles with Tomahawk cruise missiles, and that's Putin's concern. But the United States has other assets that could probably deploy in a much more stealthier manner, be it submarines armed with cruise missiles, or B-2 stealth bombers coming in and launching cruise missiles at targets in Russia. So while, yes, I understand, its location is permanent. Now, with that being said, there are other systems that could attack Russia, be it these systems. So again, what Joe Biden and the White House are talking about is bringing Russians in to tour these facilities and have a good look at the vertical launch tubes and verify there are no Tomahawk missiles in these vertical launch systems. And now, with the caveat, the United States would also have the ability to inspect Russian assets in Russia. Now, I think that is a bit of an unreasonable request. I mean, Russia is an independent state, and if it wants to put missiles wherever in its territory, it can do that. And United States Aegis ashore system in another nation state, Romania, I think is a little bit different than if Russia were to deploy its missile assets within Russia. Now, I think what you would have to say is something equal to the inspection of the Aegis ashore would be hypothetically if the Russians had cruise missile sites in Venezuela or Cuba. Most likely Cuba, as they would be closer. But we don't think there are Russian missile sites in Cuba at this point. Thus, we can't request to inspect Cuban missile sites. So that would be comparable to the Russians inspecting Ukrainians. But to expect that the Russians would allow U.S. officials to enter Russia proper to inspect some of its military facilities, I think is a little over the top. I mean, that would be almost to the point, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well let Russians inspect U.S. ballistic missile bases in the continental United States, because that's what basically the United States is asking for Russia to do. So, not picking sides here, but again, I think when you say, hey, come here, look at our Aegis ashore system, tour it, but hey, we want to look at sites inside of Russia, I think is a bit unreasonable. But I think we've gotten really kind of past that point, and I think quite possibly too many forces have been, in fact, deployed by the Russian Federation around Ukraine for just the touring of this Aegis ashore site to really mean anything. Now, it could be an off-ramp for Vladimir Putin to step back and start to withdraw forces and say, hey, we're now being allowed into a NATO facility because we did what we did, and maybe that would appease his public, but I doubt it, given the nature and the size of the buildup that has occurred. But again, the buildup continues, the rhetoric continues outside of just what is being talked about in terms of the possible olive branch, in terms of having the Russians tour the Aegis ashore system. But again, that is the news. We're waiting for confirmation in terms of just what U.S. military units are going to be deployed to Poland and Romania. Again, we think its elements, a battalion of the 82nd Airborne, possible elements, command and control elements of the 18th Airborne Corps, which could facilitate additional movement of forces at some point. But again, the idea that this is some sort of prelude to an American buildup of forces that could do something against the Russian Federation militarily is simply nonsensical. It's far too small of a force with very limited capabilities that really is just waving the flag, and more of is more symbolic in nature. But let's see how the media takes it, and if they run with it and act like it's the onset of World War III or what have you. But again, we're going to continue to watch and report. Have a good day, everybody.